Good morning and welcome to the January provider meeting. I'm glad all of you could join us today. We have quite a few people here at the Pickerington office, but for those of you that found it difficult to travel, I'm glad you were able to join via Zoom. Just a couple things. Please add your name and your email address to the chat. I'd like to be able to send you a certificate that you participated in today's presentation. And for those of you that are here, if you don't know, restrooms are right outside this door down the hallway. If you get a call or if you need to make a call, please take it outside the room. And if you don't mind silencing your cell phones, we don't want to disturb our presenter. I am going to hand it over to Pam.
Okay.
She's got a couple things to say, so.
Cool. So thanks everybody for coming. A couple different changes we have in 2023 is we have like our newsletter set style meeting minutes. So each month you will get this and it'll have a description of what's happening today. We are kind of pairing each session with a NADSP theme. This one is promoting physical and emotional well-being, being the new year. That's kind of the thing that everybody focuses on until the end of the month. We all lose it. Resource of the month. We're gonna this will change, so it'll go between just various training resources that I have. I'll put them in here. Rachel will maybe give like a community connection or something that's in the community for you guys to know about, or we'll have Lori. Somebody say her last name. Furbush. Yes. Do a like enabling tech highlight of some sort, so that'll go there. The one that I have this month is Preventing Loneliness and Social Isolation by Al Condalucci, or Lucy. I think it's Lucy. The digital copy that Kristen sent out, this click here is a link, so you can click there and it'll take you right to it. If not, you can also go on to YouTube and just do this search and it'll pop up that way too. What else? Provider highlight. This month we are highlighting the Fairfield Center for Disabilities in Cerebral Palsy. Aaron Johnston is in the room. Let's give him a round of applause. Aaron, do you want to give like a 30-second elevator pitch for your organization? All right, here's one thing that I think you should know. That I don't know if people recognize, but talk about, I was looking at the website and there was some stuff about like accommodations in the house, ramps, like that. So maybe like talk about that if people are looking at increasing independence in their house, how they could.
So we have a program, we call it the RAIN program. We get grants from the Fairfield County Foundation, the Road Rocks, Corvette Club. They give us some money. We get random donations throughout the year. We build ramps into people's homes that need, that independence where they can't do stairs anymore. We do half steps, so a regular step's not too much. Or if it's too much, we'll put a half step in. Occasionally, we'll go in and do shower, handrails in the shower and things like that. But we also have some connections for the bigger projects. Unfortunately, the grants don't cover those, but like if someone needs a whole bathroom redone, we can at least point in the right direction. So,
Great.
that's that.
Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, I advise you guys can go onto their website and check out some other things that they have going on too. So the other is Provider Network calendar. The next 6 months, we have it planned out for the year minus October. I don't know why we can't seem to get that one, but we will. But here's the next 6 months worth of meetings, and we have some really cool stuff happening. These will also be located on the Fairfield PD website on our events page. Each one of these will be up there. A little bit about who's presenting and what the content is will be there as well. And I think we're going to include the Zoom link in there, or are we just going to do that only through email? Yeah, we'll decide on that later. Looks like. Yeah, cool. All right, there's that. And then here is a copy of today's presentation up here if you guys need it. There's some really cool quotes on this and other text to read that I'm sure once the presentation starts, you'll want to go back to it and check it out. So grab one of these. Hey, Sunny, are you there?
Yeah.
How's it going?
What's up, y'all?
So every month Sunny was going to lead like an icebreaker or an opening, just for us to kind of relax and come together and kind of see each other in a different light outside of work, even though we're at work. Today, he was going, I'll do it, Sunny. I just wanted everybody to see you and know who you are, and this is what he asked, what he was gonna have everybody play Pictionary. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna divide into 2 teams, 6 on 6. We're gonna start the clock, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. It's gonna be a speed round, so it'll be 3 and 3. So, and I'm generating a different word, you're gonna draw, your team's gonna guess. Swap it out, someone's gonna draw, their team's gonna guess. We'll see who has the most points at the end of the time. Does that make sense? You said no. All right, we'll just do it. Let's just do it. All right, so 6 people. So Kristen, Sarah, Courtney, Diane, 2, 3, 4. Kyle, Leslie. That's a team. We're a team. Ready?
Where are we going?
Come on, we're gonna do it up here.
Oh, to the whiteboard.
To the whiteboard.
Don't everybody move at once. Okay. Okay.
You can start.
Yeah, so what do we, yeah.
All right, so here's Steve.
Nobody else understands, but I'm the one that got called out for it.
You can handle it.
Why
Watch your
I
step.
see you. All right, so here, our team will go over here.
There we go.
Our team will go over here.
Segregation.
I thought we were doing separate. I don't feel included. We're just putting you in the lead. Good. All right, who's drawing first? Who's drawing first?
So, whoever team is going first, you guys go first.
Okay.
So you designate a drawer first.
Oh, sorry. Drawing first. There you go.
Watch your step.
It's jump rope today. So she did to go over there and get the word.
Come over here.
Okay.
The word
Does our
on
team get a chance to steal if they don't get it right? No. Dang it.
Hey. What's my steal?
You stick with our side, Jamie.
Now, hang on, I gotta start a timer. Do you have a timer?
Oh, yes, I see the time. Okay, we're doing 6 minutes?
No, we're gonna do,
Kristen, you go to my team.
I am, but I'm checking, I gotta let people in, so I'm helping. I am. What's the timer?
we're gonna do 20 seconds.
20
Yes.
seconds, okay.
Wow.
It's my team, so I might.
I don't know if that's very long or not.
I'm helping. I'm helping. Ready? Ready? Go. Vote. Got it.
See why we want to.
All right, so 1 point for this team.
Do we keep timer, just see how fast we do it compared to how fast?
That was 6 seconds.
How many?
6.
Keep track of that, 'cause there's.
Well, we only got 20. It's not like we have a extended period
Wait.
of time here.
Going over here.
Next.
Your team 1, all right, team 2. Drawer, come here and see your word.
Like the word that
Yes.
somebody else.
Jimmy, can they reach you whiteboard? Bad joke.
Never heard that before.
Ready? Go.
A bowl, a basket, cheese, a sailboat.
Chicken.
Eggs.
Pest.
Oh, did you get it?
Focus on it.
Okay, hurry up, next team.
Well, no, very good.
6 seconds. Not bad.
Did you get it in 20 seconds? Are you watching the timer?
They did. No, I didn't. Ready?
The pressure is too real.
All right, here we go. This is the medium level, everyone, so you're doing great.
Jamie was 17 seconds, by the way.
Woohoo!
Anytime.
That just sounds good. All right.
Ready? Go.
It's Fairfield County, DD.
Oh,
I got so distracted. I didn't even, sorry. I'm just like looking around.
you cute distraction.
5 seconds.
VIP.
Come on, Michelle.
You
Drawing?
really want to continue with this?
Come on, Michelle.
That's a good
Oh,
one.
yeah, give her something.
Let me just fix this for us.
Yeah, I was keeping score here too, but that's good.
Ready? Go.
A rectangle.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're, mm-hmm.
This is
Remember.
beautiful. You're doing
Fire.
Oh, wood.
Campfire.
Ah,
13 seconds.
Yeah.
That was a tough one. It doesn't matter how many seconds.
Who's up next?
It doesn't matter as long as you get it.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Kyle wanted to do
Yeah,
that.
Kyle. This is where we lose a point though, friends. This is where we lose a point.
Believe in yourself.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh.
Next, right?
All right. This is already not great. All right. Let me know.
Ready? Go.
Yes. No, it's good.
Needle.
Yeah! She's a good guesser.
7 seconds.
Nice. Hey, that's
We know
impressive.
That was good.
All right, next over here.
Aaron.
Next over
Aaron.
Come on, Aaron.
Do it left
I'll sit
handed.
around, he's just like, okay.
Michelle,
What's that?
everybody have to do it left handed.
You like that at work too?
On your team.
Awesome.
Don't do this.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Go. Stop.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. Not your side.
yeah.
Marshmallow.
Oh! Sure, left my
Good
hands
job.
out. Wait, you guys are team two, right?
I don't know.
I know.
There we are. Oh gosh, okay.
Okay, no pressure. Oh, man, I don't love this one yet.
Oh,
Great. Great.
They believe me for me.
Okay. Oh, it could be. Never mind.
Ready? Go.
Speaker. No,
A safe.
Safe.
Oh!
Yeah.
All right. You guys are, I'm gonna have to help this.
Good job.
all right, hit me.
Yeah, I know, you're saying you're so often like.
That was great.
I played with my mother-in-law, she's on the opposite team.
All right.
Like, I know. It's not our turn.
Ready? Go.
Crown.
It does look like a
Paper bag. Plastic bag, grocery bag.
Keep going. No, keep drawing.
You don't know what this means.
Okay.
Trash bag,
There isn't anything to put.
Oh, sack.
Sack.
You said that? She said that.
Did you?
The only other thing I could think was like a Kroger grocery bag that looks like that.
And we would have
I think what
continued
you
to
know, like a
do
sack. I on a football player.
Kelly, you got.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Oh,
Sorry, guys.
now I'm the first one to lose it.
Should have been a crown. That looked like a crown.
It's word.
He's a watch stuff.
What you could say that?
Yeah. Ready? Ready? Go.
Oh, this is old school, huh? I was gonna say, know your audience, if you had no kids, you'd be like, oh.
I wouldn't have said, yeah. I mean, I think you're right by default.
Just
Yes.
All right.
give her something easy like
Icons
a.
actually help us out.
A circle. Give her a circle.
I don't think I can steal. Confidence.
You can do it.
Yes. You guys are.
Ready? Go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now,
Nice.
I like it. That might be a marker.
That make up for mine,
How long
right?
did that take me?
All right, so we're at the time, so. Because everybody's rock star, I'm gonna up this level to really hard.
Oh, great.
Oh, and we'll do tiebreakers. Each team gets to do one. So designate your drawer.
oh, we got Diane.
Oh, she's also a really great guesser.
Oh, I was gonna say, that is very true. Pam, we need you to draw. Are you on our
You
team?
want me to draw.
Why?
Not the same as my time. All right, you ready?
Oh gosh, she's drawn.
She was a better, she's really good. Just.
It depends on what the word is.
She's a good guesser. I wouldn't give her
That's
that.
the word before we.
Yeah, drawing.
Yeah, coach our team.
Well, we should do the same word and see whose team gets it first.
Or the
That's how it
fastest,
goes.
or the fastest.
We're on timing it, so I'll let you know who guessed it in the quickest amount of time.
Oh, I'm ready to go.
All right, ready? Go.
Bass. Bass.
Guitar.
Avocado.
Guitar?
Mando.
Banjo.
Wait, what's the other?
Violin?
Cello. Is it?
Cello.
Okay.
I know.
Next.
What's your draw? I don't, I changed my mind. Cello in my head.
Come on.
It's dark. I don't remember. I can't wait for that.
He's like, I wanna quit now. I should have stayed in my office.
I should have.
I was gonna say cello for Rolling Riders.
Ready?
No.
Okay.
Goodness.
Ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Zach.
Queen.
Prince.
Queen.
Just, what's
King
the
or
word?
Different word.
Same thing, different words.
Royal
King, do I say king, queen, royal, yeah, royal. Emperor. You should- Oh, yeah.
Emperor two, you know what?
Okay, good job,
Oh,
team.
okay.
Good job,
She did that
guys.
on
Good job.
purpose.
Thanks, honey.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool, all right, so if you are joining us via Zoom, go ahead and be sure to put your name and email in the chat. And if you were here in this room, make sure you sign in the sign-in sheet. Also, don't forget, there is this up front. It says, nobody came up here. I might need a few more, so. just wanna pass it around. Cool, all right, so today, kicking us off in 2023, we front-loaded this with some really epic content. Sarah Davies is here from GT Independence. She is the Director of Relationships,
Yes.
which is an outstanding title.
It's just a fun title.
Yeah.
Not always a fun job, but a fun title.
Yes, and she is going to chat with us about what's worth the work. And it's gonna be really cool, so I will just let you go ahead and take her away.
Awesome, well, thank you so much for having me, I really appreciate it. So while I do love GT Independence and all things self-direction, I am not here to talk about that today. This is one of my passion subjects that I always love talking about, so we are gonna try and fit a lot into a little amount of time. I tend to speak very quickly. If I am speaking too quickly and you're like, hey, Sarah, you completely lost me, please stop and go back and explain. Feel free to tell me that, because sometimes I need reminders. I'll get really caught up in everything. So, the first part of it, we're gonna separate it kind of two separate things. I am, is anyone here a history nerd? Okay. Here we go, Pam. Woo, that's why you're here. That's why I was like, this is amazing. Everyone's gonna be like, what is this garbage? Okay, so I am a history nerd. Like anything that I wanna know about life, I wanna know the history behind it. How the heck did we get here? Why is this not working? Because I think the more we know about our roots and where we started, I feel like that helps us, one, like what's the big quote? Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Two, I think it helps us get a better understanding of what the purpose was and the intent was behind the things that exist today, right? Nothing's perfect, but if I can at least understand the intent, then I feel kind of good about that. So I'm gonna start off with this quote. This is one of my favorite quotes ever, and this is from the book Leaders, a human service organization whose members discover and commit themselves to a common vision of inclusive community has an alternative to bureaucratic control mechanisms. People with common visions have a sense of direction. They find it easier to face difficult situations, cooperate, deal with conflicts, create innovations, and stick with their work when things get difficult and people controlled only by hierarchical relationships do. When I think back over the last 2 years, so In October 2019, I was working at the Lucas County Board of DD. I was an SSA, then I switched to provider supports. And then I got this really cool job offer as the CEO of RBI. And that is a provider agency. I took it, it seemed exciting. You know what wasn't exciting? Starting as CEO of a provider agency right before COVID hit. Don't recommend it. Don't do it. So, all of a sudden, and I had worked at different provider agencies all throughout my career. I'd gone to a board once I finished school. And then, so I'm in this provider agency, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I still probably don't know what the heck I'm doing. Just a fly by the seat of your pants type person, if we're being honest here. And all this stuff hits, and you're managing a lot of things. Here's your provider agency, here's your county boards, and here's the people we support, right? And we all just felt siloed. It was awful. I'm out there trying to develop relationships, trying to work with people, and all of a sudden, there's a global pandemic, and I don't even know if I can keep my agency afloat. That's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? I remember how you hired me and then it closed. I think that would look really great on a resume, right? No. So, but I think what really happened in that instance is, right, we all had a common vision, maybe for once. I think deep down we can get to a common vision, but I think sometimes we get caught in our own silos and we're all kind of doing our own thing out of our own motivation and our own reasons. And so then when we come to meet together, we tend to get a little lost. But for what felt like this moment, we had a common vision, and that was to make sure everyone just lived and survived, right? And that was great. That's a good vision. And so we saw new ways of working together. We saw new ways of doing things. We kind of got rid of that hierarchical control power thing that our system loves to get in. Not just our system, every system loves to get into that. You know, and we were like a team and it felt amazing. Like the whole experience didn't feel amazing, but that part of the experience felt amazing. And we even saw like that hierarchical relationships, maybe a little loosening of some rules, maybe some different ways we're doing technical assists and coming in and supporting each other. It felt like a whole mind shift to actual teamwork. And that's one of like the greatest examples. And I think that a really good thing coming out, I think we're coming out, I don't know, of the pandemic is the fact that we've seen what we can do together, right? And we know that. So that gives us a greater common vision that we can work towards. But we also know that I'm not doing this right. Did I turn it on? No, I didn't turn it on. It's fine. We're good. Oh, see, I didn't even have the quote.
Yeah, she can help.
Do you want me to?
Did it work if I do it?
No.
Oh, see, look it. I'm so distracted, I didn't even have the thing up.
I'm not taking it.
Can I? Okay, so this might not. It could be operator error if I'm being really honest here.
No, there's probably it's Bluetooth now.
Okay.
Part of it.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Nope, no worries. Okay, so there's that really great quote. We can go ahead to the next one. So that leads me to, I think about this quote all the time. I really, really like it. You can leave that there. You're good, you're good, you're good.
Hit my computer.
Pam's over there getting aggressive. We're gonna use some trauma informed techniques here soon. Okay. So if you're me, you have tons and tons. I'm really good at certain trivia, by the way, because I have tons of like somewhat useful and then a lot of useless information stored in my brain. And so I just started thinking, and I was thinking about our system as a whole. I'm a person who's interested in systems. Why does it work this way? What led us here? Why are we doing this way? Because I don't understand it. So I'm bouncing things around in my head, and then I start thinking about the system, and I start thinking about the people we support, and I start thinking about like the different journeys we're all on. And then for some reason, I had this moment of, oh, I need to know more about the history because I need to know more about the trauma within our systems. Who here has heard of trauma-informed care? Okay, does everyone have like a basic understanding? Trauma is, and hold on, I wrote down my keys earlier because I forget them. It's an event that we experience and how it affects us, right? How it affects us, it can cause us to have trauma in our lives. So when we look at people, we're looking at people and we're not saying, Pam, why did you do that? Why are you like that? I'm like, hey Pam, what happened to you, friend? Let's find out more about that, right? I'm shifting my view. I'm shifting my view to what happened to you, not why did you do that? I want to scream. This is really hard. I have so many toddlers at home, you guys, it's so hard. And I think about this all the time, because then if I ask what happened to you, I'm like, well, I did. Shoot, parenting's awful. No. And so there's this quote, and I forget, I was gonna look up the person. Do you know who says this originally?
Which one?
The trauma that is not healed is transmitted? Okay, so a really smart, wonderful person who I want to have credit for this, an intellectual credit for this quote, said, trauma that is not healed is transmitted, right? And I really started to think about this because, as I said, I'm a history nerd. I've done presentations and trainings on the history of DD in the United States, starting back to pre-colonization, right? There's a lot of information we have. And so, I also, being a history nerd, being a trauma-informed care nerd, I started thinking about this in the context, who has heard of a trauma-informed biographical timeline? As I say, y'all do have Pam here, so but a trauma-informed biographical timeline is where you get history and information about a person's life from in the womb, before birth, to their present day, and you look at things, oh, this was a resiliency factor, that means I can handle trauma a little bit better because I had parents who listened to me. I had someone who fed me when I needed fed, right? And then you go on the bottom of the line and you look at the things that can tear a person down, that trauma in people's lives. And then you kind of build an understanding, get empathy, so you're not like, I had this one person I supported, and I swear to God, if I got like one free pass to just, this person drove me nuts, and I know you're not supposed to say that, I know, I wanted to kick him. If I had one free pass, I would kick this person. I did not have empathy, I did not have understanding, I just had a little bit of violence toward this person. I was never violent, let me just, any MUI, I was never violent, but sometimes I was just like, oh, if there were one person in the world I could kick, get away with it, it would be this person. And so then, one day they're like, well, we're gonna do a timeline on her. I've never heard of it before. I'm like, this, oh, great. I'd love to dedicate 3 hours of my time to this person who I just adore. Yes, please. But I saw it and I was like, oh. And I started seeing the trauma in her life and the characteristics that I saw as really annoying, kickable, in fact.
I was gonna say, she was probably kicked, right?
A little bit, right? But they were also survival factors. She was doing the best she could to survive in a world that had been terrible to her, that had hurt her, abused her, and not given her what she needed. I left that with a whole new okay, she's still not my favorite person, okay? I still don't have to love ya. But I have more empathy and understanding, and it really helped me change my perspective. So that was my first introduction to trauma-informed care. Went from there, and here we are. So, that also got me thinking, you can go ahead to the next slide if it's okay. Maybe. You don't have to.
I want to.
Okay, oh, thank you, that's so kind. So this is, prior to this picture, I did a hand drawing and you all saw my sad little needle, so I feel like I've really upgraded and I need you all to appreciate that. I started thinking about the DD system. Now the DD system, specifically, we'll go specific to Ohio, was created by families and people with disabilities, right? Now, I do a whole nother presentation, which we can do another day, don't you worry. But I talk about the way the system treats people, right? And the trauma that causes. And sometimes I get so frustrated because I don't understand why this system, the DD system, whose roots are families and people with disabilities, advocates, right? We're all here fighting, sometimes fails to support the people who created it. Because there seems like sometimes there's just a lot of politicking and all these things, and it gets frustrating sometimes. I spoke to one woman who I respect almost more than anyone else, and she's like, yeah, I'm getting close to retirement, and I really thought I would have been able to make more change in the system before I retired. But I don't want you to lose hope.
Keep at it.
I was like, oh God. We're doomed. But good news, I got this. So I started thinking, I'm like, well, maybe if I understand a little bit of the history, then we can go from there and we can just kind of figure out, why are we doing things this way? And what do we need to change? Spoiler, we need to change us, right? And then we're gonna fight the system together, don't worry. I saw a DOD person on there, I'm about to get fired. So you can go ahead and go back. So what we're gonna do is a
Sarah,
really,
you're
really.
in Fairfield County, DOD people know the fighters come.
Okay. So we're gonna do a very small, I'm gonna go through this kind of quickly, right? Because the next part, I wanna know our roots, right? I wanna know kind of a game plan, and then I wanna go and I wanna do that a little more accurately. So, fun facts that I like to start with. Would you do my timeline for me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're gonna start at 1848 and the opening of the first institution by Sally Ridley Howe. But I have a super fun fact before that. In pre-colonial times, right? And this is all information you can find in a US History of Disability by Dr. Kim Nielsen. She's amazing. She might have been one of my professors. I'm kind of obsessed with her. But when the first explorers, colonizers came to the shore, so prior to that, people in different indigenous tribes, actually, there was like a continental sign language, right? So it didn't matter what language you spoke, you'd always be able to communicate. When people first came to the shores, there was like journal entries from like Spanish conquistadors, is that the right word? Yeah.
Sounds good.
And they said, people are standing on the shores gesturing wildly. And they were signing because they were trying to communicate. And do you know that it would be like, what, 1700s, 1800s before we had an effective sign language? So I think that's a really fun fact.
I like it too.
Fun,
Yeah.
sad, one of those. But I think it's really interesting. All right, so in 1848, Sally Ridley Howe opened the first institution in America. Now, here is a super,
1748?
1848. So, this was not necessarily in Ohio, but this is important. Another important thing about that is Mr. Gridley Howe, is it Gridley Howe? Mr. Gridley Howe, he had really good intent in opening institutions, right? He said, you know what, people with disabilities can learn things. Send them to me, we're gonna teach them how to do stuff, and we're gonna send them back in their community, and it's gonna be amazing, right? What happened is that people kind of just got stuck there. They were self-sufficient. They wanted to teach people how to launder, so there was a laundry. They wanted to teach people how to garden, so there was a garden. There was a dairy. All these things existed in the institution. And so instead of education and going back out, it kind of just ended up as a catch-all for disabled bodies, right? We'll go in more into the institution. But Ohio opened its first asylum for the education of the idiotic and imbecile youth in Columbus in 1857. I should do a trigger warning. Some of the wording used in this is not going to be appropriate for today's terms, okay? But we are looking at some of the historical context. Now, here we go. We have this institution. What happens in 1860 that affects the entire nation? The Civil War. Okay, so we have a national trauma. From 1860 to 1865, we have a whole country at war with each other. Brother against brother, friend against friend, cousin against cousin. And during this time, we actually see, and we don't have to put this on the timeline, we actually see an increase of disabled people being more involved in their community because there was need, right? People were all fighting the war. We're seeing that. So in 1865, when people were coming back, all of a sudden, there was no actual work/need. I say that all very, we all know there's a need for disabled humans in this world, right? Okay. There was no need for disabled people anymore. And so they kind of went back to the institutions. That was the only space for them. Not everyone, but But that was the only space. So that really, after this whole national trauma, we're suffering another trauma because there's no jobs for disabled people anymore. During this time period, this is also not on here, Dr. Charlene Gilbert from the University of Toledo is working on a docuseries about Ohio. And in Ohio, it was not uncommon for counties to auction off disabled people to the lowest bidder, and the disabled person would go and live in their home and help them for the lowest price. So it's kind of like a reverse auction. Kind of like how we do a home mods, if I'm allowed to say that, right? Who's the lowest quote? And that is who would go and would care for that disabled person, right? So even in Ohio, we have this trend, right? We started off by basically reverse bidding on disabled humans in order to get care for them. Who can do it the cheapest? That's what we need to know.
Oh,
Did you know that?
did we do that today still?
What? I know.
I'm sure you'll get
No.
that up.
In 1894, Columbus passed what was called an ugly law. I am going to read you part of the ugly law, okay? Again, the verbiage is not pretty, I apologize. This is one that is from the Chicago City Code. Oh, sorry, I keep, there we go. I need to
Catch
go.
me up. Catch me up.
Yeah, go back one. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I'm doing a really bad job of guiding here. I actually sometimes have like friends, I'll just like randomly say stuff and they just write notes down for me and they're like, here's what you said. So like, I cannot be trusted to stay organized at all, so I really apologize.
I'll follow now.
Okay, Columbus, Ohio, to prohibit street begging and to restrain certain persons from appearing in streets and public places. What's the purpose of it? As the name of this ordinance suggests, ugly laws were concerned with more than appearance, prohibiting both the activity of street begging and appearance in public of certain persons. The phrasing that one finds in the Chicago City Code in 1881 originates from the San Francisco law and references with that law to deformity, ugliness, and being quote unquote a disgusting object. It's a good thing it doesn't exist anymore because like me on a Saturday morning might fall into the disgusting object category. But if we don't like what we see, if you offend us in any way, if you are deformed, if you dare beg, you can be arrested, right? What does that cause more? Institutionalization? Maybe the prison institutional system? I don't know. We're just filling up our institutions with people we don't like and offend us slightly. All right. Moving on from there. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Who knows about Sir Francis Galton? Sir Francis Galton was an Englishman and he came up with what we call eugenics. The eugenics theory was based on, well, if I have a prize stallion and I want to create more prize stallions, then I should breed the very best stallions together and get a superb horse. Right? Is this idea that you can breed out imperfections in citizenship, right? The biggest thing we know about this is Nazi Germany, right? Eugenics was very, 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 very popular. Do not think it was not popular in the US. This is where statistics originated. This is where social work originated, right? Because we needed ways to get into people's homes. This is where we have a lot of different fields. Beauty pageants originated. Having to get certain things done on your marriage license because they wanted to make sure two inferior families are not marrying, or maybe that an inferior DNA is not entering this really great, wonderful DNA stream, right? The US used this for a lot of terrible things. So this is this whole idea. We have a lot of legislation that passed all over the US. People from Nazi Germany came over and looked at American eugenics laws and toured American institutions and got a lot of their ideas for their final solution from that, right? It's a big thing. And I'm not saying every person in that time period was bad. It was passed off as, this is science. This is science. People bought into it. It was not uncommon. So we have all of this stuff, but in Ohio particularly, this is a big time frame. But in this time period from 1915 to 1963, there were 5 attempts to pass sterilization laws in Ohio. This bill was introduced 5 different times in 5 different ways, and this was the idea that if you were disabled in some way, forced sterilization could be used legally without your consent to make sure you did not reproduce. Now, even though the law was not passed, there's plenty of evidence, plenty of stories of where we have forcibly sterilized individuals with disabilities as well as other populations, okay? During this time, there was a big article published, The Family of Sam 60, the Feeble-Minded in Rural Ohio. People were writing papers on why people with disabilities were deviant, they were prone to crime, they were prone, and I would say people with disabilities and probably mental health is included in here, right? Things we don't understand, things that we devalue and we don't wanna, we don't wanna be part of, right? And in 1925, a eugenics law actually passed both the House and Senate, Ohio House, Ohio Senate, but it was vetoed by Governor Alan Victor Donahue. And I felt like his name needs to go up there because, hell yeah, dude, good job. You stopped that stuff. I like that. So here we are, we're in the height of eugenics, we're trying to figure out all this stuff. But in 1933, we have the creation of the Cuyahoga County Council for Retarded Children. I understand that is not correct? That's what it was called. So Cuyahoga County starts up something saying, okay, like maybe there's something we can do on a community level here. Kudos to them, I really appreciate that. In 1940, again, there is the realization of what happens with eugenics, right? Maybe we had eugenics and it was a little bit checked, still wasn't right, but it was a little under checked. And then we see what happens when eugenics is not checked, right? And this is Nazi Germany. People with disabilities were referred to as lives not worthy of living. And before anyone else was murdered, people with disabilities, they came after first, and about 275,000 people with disabilities in Germany were murdered during that time period. It's a lot of experimentation that was done on people with disabilities. There was a lot of experimentation of gas chambers, what's the best way to kill people, to murder people. That was all tested out on people with disabilities, okay? So after this happens, hey, wake up call. Maybe we need to shift course. So at this time, we're seeing a lot of parent movements. In 1960, the Horn Report, and this is all local here in Ohio, the Horn Report was introduced to the Ohio legislature saying people with disabilities, gasp, belong with their families and in their communities. How can we support them? How can we make that happen? Until this point, if you had a child with a disability, the doctor said, this child has no quality of life, they should not live with you, they need to go to an institution. We're gonna watch a video in a little bit, hopefully it works. I know I thought about it later. If not, we'll Google it, find it, it's fine. We're gonna watch a video of a young woman who at the age of 6, her disability became apparent, and they put her in an institution and they told everyone she died. Okay? This was the sage medical advice of the time. Again, let's look through trauma-informed care. A lot was going on during that time period. I'm not saying certain people are at fault. This was the way that people thought. Yes, we have a responsibility to educate ourselves, but let's give people grace, all right? This is what they were told to do. But the parents came back out. You can go to the next slide. And in 1967, the county board system was developed. That's where all the county people are like, woo, that's us. Here is something that you will always hear from me. I love the county board purpose. County board started with community.
Yeah.
They started with community. They started because parents were like, y'all, our kids belong with us, but can we get some like assist up in here? Like, what's going on? Like, they deserve school, right? I'm from Toledo, Ohio, the home of the Josina who started a school for disabled kids. Nowadays, we'd be like, how do we put them in school, right? Cool, yes, 100% believe that, but it was revolutionary. The idea, like, hey, your disabled kid deserves to go to school and get an education. I love that. She's awesome. And then,
Hey Sarah, before you go on.
yeah,
Do you think that we should add some like emotion to these, like
Oh,
with
yeah.
a timeline?
we can, absolutely. I was just on it.
You were on a roll.
I know, I was feeling it. All right.
Keep going if you want to. I just don't know if you thought that would be, because the feelings transmit to the people. And that's
Yes,
what
that is true. Let's see. Okay, so let's stop right here. We're gonna go more in depth, but let's just take a moment and I will stop blabbering so quickly. And when you look at these things, can someone tell me like some emotions that they're feeling by looking at that?
If you can read it, I wasn't thinking about people reading this. So.
Basically, with what we talked about, what are the initial emotions that you're feeling?
Disgusted,
This ugly mom.
Disgusted.
Yeah. Disgusted.
disgusted. Hurt.
Hurt.
Come on, folks.
Aggravating. Covers it. Aggravating.
Aggravated?
Now, if this were the lifespan of one person though, what are words do you think that would describe that person? So this is our system. This is our person. We're making a system a person, right? So also thinking about that, like what's a word that would describe that? If that all happened to a person, if all these things, what's something that you think would describe that to? What's an emotion or a feeling that you would feel? I guess that's
Heartbroken.
heartbroken, okay?
I got one.
Angry.
Angry, yep. Shame, yep.
Oh my.
I always hate when they volunteer me to write because literally without spell check, I would not have ever graduated anything. And I'm like, we're gonna use abbreviations today, folks, because
Leave our judging
I don't know.
mechanism at home.
yes, no shame here. All right. All right, so let's go with that. I'm gonna name a couple more things. So in 1967, we had the county board system established. 1969, we had the cabinet level department established. This was a push by the ARC of Ohio. So that's why county board people, when DODD says something, can be like, we were here first. God, just joking, don't do that, you might get in trouble. I might get fired, it's fine. But that's, that's our DODD. So we have a cabinet level department established. Not every state has a DODD, folks. Ohio is very lucky. We have a seat at the governor's table. That is awesome. We have an appointed representative. That is amazing. We should not take that lightly. We have a lot of ability in the state of Ohio that you don't have in other ones. In 1970, Developmental Disability Services Construction Act, they decided that housing was important for people with disabilities. Yay, Ohio, people should live in homes. I like it. And in 1972, the Willowbrook documentary came out and it spurred the closing of institutions. Who here has heard of Willowbrook? Geraldo Rivera with his young mustache, looking all dapper, sneaking in, saving the disabled folk. What? Okay, I had a moment, I'm fine. But so all of a sudden, another great photo docu-series came out called Christmas in Purgatory. People are sneaking in, they are taking pictures in institutions. I'm gonna get my numbers wrong because I don't have them in front of me. I believe Willowbrook was made to house about 3,000 people. And I believe that it had 4,000 or 6,000,
Yeah.
5,000, it was over about like 2,000 people. People would try and work there. There was a term called radiator mothers because people with disabilities would be naked, cuddled up to a radiator because it's the only warmth they would find in life. People need warmth. They need compassion. They got that from a radiator. It was not uncommon practice if a baby comes in to put wood boards over the crib so babies could not stand, they could not develop their leg muscles, therefore they could not walk and they were more manageable. These were all things that happened. Institutions were not a good place and they needed to be shut down, right? Some things you will hear me say reform, other things you will hear me say abolish. I have no shame in that. Institutions needed abolished. So we started closing everything down and we were sending people back to the county of their birth. We're getting people out of institutions. In Ohio, we're lucky, we have those county boards. We're seeing the creations of the shelter workshop. We're seeing creations of county schools. And at that time, none of that stuff was bad, right? That was good stuff. We recognized the need and we met it the best we were able to. After this, we're gonna kind of go and fast forward. In 1973, we had the introduction of the Rehabilitation Act. Anyone read Judy Heumann's book? Oh, read it, it's so good. It talks all about the activism. This is where disability activism, which y'all, if I had my choice in life, I would just be sitting on the state capitol building, with a drum circle. I love a good activist story. There are so many amazing things. There was the sit-in for Section 505. Okay, let me back up. The Rehabilitation Act, in it, had a section, and this was introduced to the United States Congress, House, all those people up there, and it was signed into law. And they would not enforce Section 504, which stated that disabled people have the right to live in their community, have the right to have a job, have the right to transportation. It was like a mini ADA before the ADA was passed. So all over the nation, a bunch of disabled activists did sit-ins at different government agencies. I would call it HEW. I think it's Housing, Education, and Workforce, something like that. And they did all these sit-ins, and none of them lasted except the one in Berkeley, California, because, hello, Berkeley, right? And they sat there until movement happened and it was signed into law. It is one, go look up the movie Lives Worth Living, okay? And watch that. I think it's like a PBS documentary. It is amazing. It is so good. There are so many amazing stories of activism and community coming in to support. Actually, Drunk History.
That's a good one, I saw that.
If you look up Drunk History, Judy Heumann, there is a story as well, and it's Drunk History. Has anyone seen Drunk History? People just get drunk and retell his story. It's the best. It sums up disability rights so well too. It's amazing. So all this stuff happened. We see activism, nothing about us without us is our slogan. You don't get to make decisions without us if they involve us, right? This is something we still fight for all the time. I can't tell you how many times I say, excuse me, how many people with disabilities were involved in the creation of this specific rule or law? Did we consult anyone, right? Nothing about us without us. We always need to remember that. And then in 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law by President George W? No, George H.W. Bush. Thank y'all. This was a major victory. Now, we know a lot of things have happened since 1990. When I think of 1990, I'm like, oh, it's just 10 years ago. What happened in 10 years? But it might be a little further back than that. We will not take the time to come up to speed. We've had a lot of really positive things happen, right? I think we're moving in a positive direction. But as always, if we don't know our past, we're always a little in danger of maybe saying, well, would it really harm us if we just did this or that? So So we're gonna skip that in the name of time because I do want to ask some important questions. When we do a trauma timeline, we have our feelings up there, and then we ask 3 important questions, which we might have to, I told you I was gonna bring my crinkly paper and I didn't. Can we use that paper?
Yes. Okay, that's one.
All right. Go ahead and go. Looking at this, what is the DD system in Ohio?
Oh, sorry,
No, you're good.
I was still.
Give me some words. When we look at the history, the trauma timeline of the DD system in Ohio, what is it?
Silence.
It's silent. It's not silent, I promise.
Complicated.
Let's go. Complicated. Excellent.
No, not excellent.
No, I don't, yes. Excellent is a complicated, complicated is an excellent word. Is it aggravated? What is it? If this were a person, what would it be feeling? What is it? Gonna start singing some aggro. Why'd you have to go?
Complicated duty system?
Anything else? Do we want to take any of the words that we were feeling, any of the emotion that we were feeling here? Would we say that it's hurt?
Frustrated.
It's that was one frustrated system, y'all.
Okay, man, no pain ever.
It's not going there.
Anything else? Give me one more
There's
thing.
gotta be some words.
We have words, guys, we can do this. Anyone online, you got words for me?
Broken.
Broken, yes. Okay, well, for the sake of time, we'll take those 4 words. And now we're gonna go, if the DD system, we got another one.
Yes.
Complex, thank you, yes. Okay, so if the DD system is that, what does it mean? If something's complicated, what does it need? We need simplification, excellent. If something is hurt or broken,
Support. Healed.
healed, support, I love the word support. Support is my favorite. Compassion, ooh, I love that. Anyone else, we got any other words? If something is complicated and complex and hurt and broken and frustrated and health and
Health and safety.
filled with health and safety, we can say that it needs simplified, healed, supported, compassion. Anyone else have any other words?
Understood.
Understood. Freed, ooh.
That's not a G, it's a D.
All right. What will it take? What are some ideas? What does it take? Who knows what heals trauma? How is trauma healed?
Relationship.
Relationships, healthy, safe, trusting, supportive relationships. Yes. So when we look at the system and we see what it is and we can identify the things that it needs, we know that this takes safe relationships, right? And who's doing that? Who's part of that? Let's identify that. Who's a part of those safe relationships? Who's working on those? Who's developing them? You guys are getting steps in every day at presenting. I'm so excited right
Yeah, you
now.
need more arm movement. That's
Okay. I'll just be over here lunging. It's fine. Okay. Who's a part of that? Hi, I want to be a part of it.
Provider.
Providers, yes. Professionals, county boards, DODD, you get to be a part of it too. You know who's a big part of it? Families, people with disabilities, yes. This is important. This is what's worth the work. That amazing little cute little baby doll thing is my baby, and her name's Evangeline. Evangeline is 9 years old. Evangeline is the oldest of 5 kids, and she is a type A overachiever. So instead of having like one disability, she goes for the gold. She's impressive in that way. I was not a firstborn. I am not type A, in case you haven't caught that yet. Not me.
Somebody else will take my notes.
So, she does a lot. The system's really important to me. The history, the way that parents are treated, the way that families are treated, the way that people with disabilities are treated and represented in society really matters to me because that's my kid. Okay? So before having her, I was in the system. I worked in this field. I don't believe in fate. I don't believe in destiny, but maybe just a little because that little baby's mine, right? She's not a little baby. Sorry. She's like a preteen. What's worth the work? For me, that's worth the work. For me, her future right now is a very scary time, right? I'm terrified. I go to bed a little freaked out. I wake up a little freaked out. And at some point during the day, I find a little bit of hope, right? And I find hope in all of you. I find hope in the fact that we have dedicated people who care, who can find a common vision, who can work together, who can understand, yeah, we got some work to do, but that it's worth that. So for me, that's what's worth the work. And each of us need to figure out our why and what's worth the work. What's worth it for you? Because there's days I've sat in meetings, I already admitted I wanted to kick someone, right? Like I've sat in meetings where I'm like, it's not worth it. None of this is worth it. And you have to refocus, right? So we're gonna watch a quick video if it works, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about some practical ways to work on communication using some different community building theories. And this movie might be sad. It is sad.
It's very, not the whole, it comes up in the end, but it'll be tricky. I got a lump in my throat when I was watching it.
Yeah, I usually cry watching it, so I just, it's fine.
It's 8 minutes though, so.
Yeah, and there are words in there that are gonna be outdated. Please be aware.
I think you have to unshare.
I'm sorry, I won't be able to do my volume.
I think you have to stop share and reshare.
Okay, so just.
And then let's pull up in another window. Yeah. Well, actually, when you go to share, you're gonna share this.
Oh, when I.
Do you know what I mean?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We will figure it out.
What happens?
1950s tell the story of a typical American family. The handsome husband, the perfect wife, and the happy kids. But then the pictures
Not up here. It's here.
It's not moving? You have to play it. Here, close that window. It's on the other window.
The one next to it.
Close the one you're on.
I know, but that screen and this screen are not the same.
I know, but I think
Like my cursor's not. Oh, and Zoom quit unexpectedly. What's that mean?
my gosh. Is it too much? Too much for the Zoom?
Shouldn't be. I'm sending that report to Zoom. Hey everyone, good to see you again. Hope you enjoyed your break. Somebody on Zoom, were you guys able to see that video you were? Okay, thanks, Nicole. Let me see if I can do it again. Okay,
All right, I think this is our time.
here we go.
There's change, and a family secret was born.
And I would often look at a photo, I'd say, tell me again, who's this? Well, that was Molly. Where's Molly now? She's not here anymore.
When older brother Jeff was 5, Molly disappeared. For a while, Jeff asked constantly, "Where's Molly?" He stopped asking after being told repeatedly by his mother he had to forget his baby sister.
I was fairly well brainwashed. I think I can say that Molly never crossed my mind for 20 years, maybe 30 years.
That is, until someone else from his past came back into his life.
I mean, I had not seen him in probably 25 or 30 years.
Cindy Thompson grew up with Jeff in Astoria, Oregon. The two even dated in middle school. They met again in 1994 after their high school reunion.
And one of the first things she said to me was, "How's your mom? How's your dad? And what's Molly doing?" And I almost fell off the chair. I said, how do you remember Molly? And
I said, everybody knew about Molly. He said, what do you know about Molly? I said, well, she was sent away. I don't know where she went, and I never heard what happened to her. She's still alive. And Jeff said, I don't know.
it almost ended our relationship right there. Cindy was so upset, saying, how could you not know where your sister is?
Nevertheless, Jeff and Cindy's relationship grew. They got married. But it would take another 10 years before the mystery of Molly's disappearance began to unravel. And it was only after Jeff's parents, Sue and Jack, passed away.
My father died. Cindy said, time's up. I'm going to find Molly.
Turns out Jack Daly kept information in his wallet about his only daughter and a secret file hidden away. And within 24 hours of Jack's death, the mystery of Where's Molly was solved.
And Cindy picked up the phone, started making some phone calls, and it was the third call. She found the group home in Hillsboro, just outside of Portland, where Molly was actually living.
3 days later, Jeff Daly reunited with the sister he last saw when she was just shy of her 3rd birthday. Molly was now a 49-year-old woman.
So I wasn't sure what to expect. But the first time I saw her, it was pain. I felt pained that I hadn't seen her. I knew that I was wrong.
Knew that you were wrong, not trying to find her sooner.
That here indeed is this individual that has personality, and she's my sister. And I let her go for 47 years without ever being part of her life.
Because Molly couldn't tell Jeff and Cindy about those missing 47 years, they set about filling in the details, which brought them to the institution where Molly was sent back in 1957, the Oregon Fairview home. Fairview has now been closed for almost a decade. The buildings where Molly and thousands of other children lived are in decay. But a film that shows what life was like here in the 1950s gave Cindy and Jeff a disturbing look at how Molly spent her childhood here.
Kosher Cottage, first stop in the journey of a mentally retarded child.
And the last thing Jeff and Cindy expected was to see Molly herself in the film when she was just 5 years old.
And she was at the beginning of the film. And when we saw that, we crumbled.
At the time, the film was meant to be a testament to the state-of-the-art care given to patients with intellectual disabilities. Fairview, founded in 1907, was originally named the Oregon State Institution for the Feeble-Minded, and it was hardly alone. By 1962, 49 of the 50 states in the U.S. had at least one institution for the mentally disabled. In all, there were 123.
After World War II, in the early 50s, you increasingly had physicians who would tell parents to put their children almost immediately in institutions after they were born if they had an apparent disability.
James Trent is a professor at Gordon College in Massachusetts and the author of A History of America's Treatment of Those Once Called Mentally Retarded. He says Molly's parents undoubtedly acted on what was common advice in the 1950s.
Most physicians would tell them for the good of the family, for the good of the other children in the family, for the good of the stability of the family, it was best to put the disabled child in a state institution.
That was the way it was done. The state asked you to do that. The doctors told my parents, it's okay, let Molly go to Salem. She'll be in an institution, she'll be better off there.
But Jeff believes Molly was not better off.
Molly had some minor disabilities, but we believe that when she went into the institutional, she became institutionally retarded. The environment created her, forced her into being what everybody else in an institution was, which were people surviving.
In combing through Molly's records, the Dailies discovered that despite the family mandate to forget her, Molly did have some family visitors through the years.
My mom went there once, from what we understood. She went there one time a few years after Molly was sent there. We don't know why. We just found a little note in her records that mother had visited. But other than that, she didn't visit.
Was it shame that kept your mother from doing this? Was it just that she didn't want to acknowledge even Molly's existence?
I never could understand as how a parent that you could just throw up this firewall between you and a daughter. But to send her away and say, no more conversation. She is not part of our lives. We're not going to talk to her about it. So whether that's shame, it's a horrible dilemma, I think, that my mother had to go through.
At first, Molly's father visited often, until Fairview's staff advised him to stop because Molly would become inconsolable after he left. But Jack Daly found an ingenious way to continue visiting his daughter, one that might bring a smile to her face.
He did go back, only a way that I suppose my dad could have figured out. He went back as a clown.
Jeff's father, an executive at the Bumblebee Seafood Company, founded a troupe called the Astoria Clowns in 1957, the very year Molly was sent away. The troupe traveled around Oregon, marching in parades and entertaining children wherever they went. And they visited Fairview.
And he was able to have this relationship with Molly in disguise, painted face, an orange wig, wearing the clown outfit, but he was able to still get back there and see his daughter.
By profession, Jeff was a freelance cameraman who sometimes worked for CBS News. Now he's made a film called Where's Molly? About the search for his sister.
We went to Salem, where we were able to go through dozens of boxes of Oregon State records.
He hopes his story encourages others to reunite with siblings lost because of the wisdom of earlier times. He's failed, however, to convince his own younger brother, who was born after Molly was sent away, to spend time with her.
I've not only lost my brother now, but he's missing out on a great opportunity to have a sister.
For Jeff, finding his sister has done much more than solve an old mystery.
Jeff has changed immensely since he found Molly. He has, as one person said, it filled a hole in his soul, and it really did.
I have family. I've lost some family, but I've got family. And I think that the family that I have now needs me, and I'm glad to be there for. That's the beauty of it. It's a lovely reward to be able to give back and to take care of your little sister.
All right. Just always get a little. So that video to me is why I think knowing our history is important. I think it's important to look at it in a very multifaceted angles, right? I can find compassion for those parents, right? I'm aware of what parents are told. I'm aware even in today's day and age, parents get told a lot of terrible things about having a disabled child. Just do. And even though it's very difficult to watch stuff like that, to me, we can't really move on if we don't acknowledge kind of the things that have happened in the past. And why, even when we get frustrated, we want to kick a few people, right? It's still important. It's still worth the work, right? To help people people with disabilities become involved in their community, to live lives of their choosing, to have those choices, and to be valued members of their local communities and of their world, right? So we already kind of established, we can switch. We already kind of established who this takes. So good news, here we are. Let's talk about some communication. Communication can be difficult. It's really, you're good. You can go to the next one.
Okay.
No, you're good. Sorry. Thank you to everyone. Thank you. So communication can be difficult. You can go ahead and move. So here's the deal, guys. We work in a feeling career, right? This is what I call the big feelings. We have big feelings. I have big feelings. I gave some input on a presentation last week that was delivered, and I had real big feelings. And my colleague called me and he was like, Sarah, were you speaking out of emotion? I said, hell yes, I was speaking out of emotion. This is how it is. What's going on here? I got big feelings. I said, and just because I was speaking out of emotion doesn't mean it wasn't right. Thank you very much, right? We have big feelings. We also all have an interest. It is very difficult sometimes to understand the other side. I have been a DSP. I have been an SSA. I am a family member. I've been a provider. Guess what? Sometimes we're all thinking about different things, and that gets complicated, right? So when I first started at the county board, we were in a meeting one time and we were talking about a DSP who had stolen money from an individual. And my coworker said, oh, what kind of terrible, awful, immoral, human, like she had a list of adjectives, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. Would do that. I don't understand. I would never even think about that. I said, well, let me tell you a story. Well, I was a DSP one time. I had $10 to my name. I needed to get gas. It was like a week at least, okay? I needed to get gas. I really wanted some coffee. And let's be honest, I really wanted a cigarette, right? I needed caffeine, nicotine, and gasoline. And I had $10 and I filled her up. I got the worst. I think I was pretty close to stopping at that point because the worst smokes you can get for $2.50. The worst gas station coffee. And it was in Minnesota. I live in Minnesota and it was winter and I remember drinking my coffee, freezing as I put $5 in gas, went a little farther those days. Just put this money in gas, like, okay, I got enough to get to and from work. I'm not doing anything extra this weekend. And I went to the group home where I worked. Do you want to know how much petty cash I counted? $200 petty cash. And you know, I'd be lying if I weren't like, they have $200. That sucks. I wish I had $200. Right? I did not, for the record, all those MUI agents out there, I did not, and it wasn't even a mistake.
Kicking, now stealing.
I know, kicking and stealing. They'd be like, who are you bringing in to speak? But that was the reality of my life at that point. I was working at a DSP. I thought, and this was in the early 2000s, and I think I was making $10 to $11 an hour. And I mean, our wages haven't really increased that much in however many, like 20 years. So back then it was like not enough to survive. And like now it's even worse. Okay, we won't go there. Anyways, we have to be able to understand. And DSPs, most DSPs, we know it doesn't pay well, right? So it's not always just a job. Like people care. We work in a feeling career. A lot of people, I'm not saying everyone, we've all met them. A lot of people are here because they care and because it's a rewarding job and they care about people with disabilities. SSAs, the same. I've done all the paperwork. It's stupid. It's awful. It's not stupid. It's stressful, okay? Your jobs are hard. There's a lot of stuff. And then, you know, it's not too long ago that the rule was like, you're the single point of accountability. And they're like, just forget that accountability thing. Well, let's call it coordination. But we haven't forgotten about that because those bucks are in the line if the plan's wrong. Right. Okay. And then families. Let me tell you something about families. I don't give a flying flip about any of your assessments. and stop asking me about them. I just don't care. I mean, I care. I work in the field. I know you need them. But I swear to God, my kid is 9 years old, and in that time, she has had 11 different SSAs, service coordinators, early intervention specialists. Our early intervention specialist was amazing. Actually, I would take 20 of her, please. And it's not that we have bad relationships with a lot of them, but she's 9. Like, how, really? And every time someone comes in, hi, can you just tell me a story about how hard life is? Please tell me everything that's happened to you. I really need to, like, you have a file. Take better notes and read your file, and he'll talk to me, and then we can work it all out, right? But here's the thing that we all care, and we talked about that common vision, right? What is something that we can all agree on? Anyway. I hope cheese is good. Cheese is great, actually. Cheese is delicious. Yeah. I saw an amazing TikTok of like a cheese plate pizza. I'll share it. What is something, if we're all working as a team, we all can believe and get behind it?
What a better lives for the people we serve.
Yes. Now, my common vision might look different depending on my team and that person. Not even my team, that person. What do they want for their lives? I want you to have what you want out of life. #. And that varies, right? But our common vision always has to start with, we are here for this person. You want to get there that way. I want to get here this way. But we all eventually want to end up in the same place, which is a better support and life for this person, right? We can all agree upon that, hopefully. Okay. I mean, I'm just here to get rich, but.
By the way, charge more for the next time you come.
Okay. All right, I mean, I haven't submitted an invoice yet, well, you know.
You only get paid with your.
So we work with other human beings. They deserve our focus. It is so hard. Interpersonal relationships are so hard. And it is hard when we are trying to be like these amazing professionals, make sure all our assessments are done, make sure that we got that retention bonus paid out correctly, gosh darn it. There's a lot of crap we gotta keep track of, and we all have to be able to stop and focus on that common vision, that person. Even like develop a broader, like as you work as a team, hey, we're providers in the county board. This is our common vision. This is what we're working towards. But when we're talking about those individualized meetings, which I think is very, very important, I think that's where a lot of relationship building happens, that person deserves our focus. And it doesn't matter what else is happening. You can go to the next slide. A lot of this stuff, I want to make sure you have the resources you need. So, Peter Block wrote a book called Community, the Structure of Belonging. A lot of these ideas, and this has nothing to do with actually the DD field, but it's all applicable because we are building community. Our number one goal, our priority, and I'll get in trouble for this. I don't care if the person drinks a 2-liter of Pepsi in a day. I could care. I mean, I care. Like, I don't want you to die, but you know what? You're a human. You get to do what you want. I care more if they have a meaningful, valued life and the life that they want, right? I care about developing community, and I think that we have to get to that point where that's on our radar. So this is a lot of stuff. I'm gonna use it in the context of a meeting. You can take this and use this in any way, shape, or form that fits you and supports the people you support, okay? So these are some basic steps that he talks about inviting. When's the last time you did anything other than send an email out to the team? I was not saying this is what I was gonna, hey, I got 90 days to complete this. It's come that time again. Let's get the team together. Extend the invitation. Does that feel great? I've also been a provider. Oh God, it's that time again. I have to sit in that room. Okay, let's go. Right? But there's a way that we can do this. Declare possibility. I believe that words create worlds. This is a quote by Rabbi Abraham Heschel. We have the power to create things with the way we speak, what we put out into the world, and how we exist, all right? Some days I'm creating a really pathetic world, other days I'm doing better. But I think that we as humans have that power. I think that the fact that the creation story of one of the world's major religions starts with words, let there be light. I think that all matters, right? I think we can speak that out. Declare the possibility. What's the possibility for this year? What is the future that we are committed to? When we're getting together, what's our possibility, right? This year, I would like Jimmy to be able to enter his community 2 hours a week without wanting to run away or throw shoes at people. And that's an amazing possibility because there's possibilities out there and they all look different for everyone, right? It is I mean, I know you hear person-centered and you literally want to run screaming from the room and like jump off the building, right? Because we overuse it. We can be person-centered and truly person-centered because not everyone's needs are the same. People with disabilities are not statistics, right? They're human beings and every need is different. Declare our possibility. What is the future that we as a team are committing to? I want to know it. Today, we're committed to getting through this meeting and putting Jimmy's best needs first above any other priority, okay? Frame the choice. Hey, you don't have to participate. You don't have to come. It's a choice. If you show up, I don't want you here because you have no other choice. We know sometimes there's no other choice, right? Like SSA can be like, who wasn't feeling this choice today? I'm gonna need to come back another day, right? But frame the choice. Hey, we want you here. We believe there's a possibility. We are declaring this possibility. We are committing to a future. We want you here. You don't have to come, Pam, but I want you here. Thanks. Okay? Name the hurdle. Sometimes we're gonna have tough conversations. I worked on a case when I was working in Toledo, and it was a provider who hated the landlord, and the landlord hated the provider, but was the only landlord that would rent because they help support some very difficult, complex people. And all of a sudden, like, the board's involved, and like, I know nothing about leases. Okay, like, well, I don't know why I'm here. And they're just sitting there staring at each other. And so being the unwise person I had time, I was like, look, we're not accomplishing anything with your death stares. I understand. Let's acknowledge you don't like each other. You feel like this went wrong and it's their fault. You feel like this went wrong and that it's her fault. Can we stop and acknowledge what's happening and that you don't like each other and that's okay, but you still gotta work together because this is the hurdle we need to get over. We need to find safe housing for a person, okay? That's what we need to do. Are you capable of that? And then it was like, well, yeah, I guess, okay. Okay, let's focus, people. Reinforce request again. I want your input. I want your presence. We all bring something to the table. I'm not organized at all. Like when I tell you, sometimes I call my friend and I say, I'm just gonna speak and can you summarize what I say for me so I can present it and make it look smart? Literally, this is what I do. She's like, yeah, go for it. And then I get like a nice little note sent to me. Here's everything you said. And she'll highlight, like, I think you said this, and I think it's worth exploring more. So look into that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I would write papers in college where they'd ask for an outline, and I write the paper first and then do the outline to submit because I don't think in that way. I am here all over. It's awful. It's awful. Reinforce request. Make it personal. It's okay instead of a group email to call and say, hey, I just realized we're within 90 days. I would love to knock this out of the park. I would love for you to be there. Can you be there? Let's ask our person, hey, where do you want to do this? We had one person who said, hey, you could do the meeting. You're coming to my work. You're going to bring Subway subs. You're going to do that. Heck yeah, we did. Yeah. Anything you want, lady. about you. Go ahead. Sometimes I forget what I write down, so it's really like a lovely surprise when I get to, okay. Focus on facilitation. Okay, we're not gonna stay here long because I quickly am running out of time because I speak too much. This is my pet peeve. I don't understand either, sorry. Focus on facilitation. This is like my pet peeve. It's okay to move stuff around. I used to work in this unit and we were like, they're the big paper unit. And they put all the really crazy ones over there. And so we would go and we would move stuff around, but let's focus on how we're doing these meetings. If you're sitting, and if you do this, I don't mean to come after you, I don't mean to personally attack you at all. If you're sitting looking at the computer and hello new OISP, my friend was in a 3-hour ISP meeting. I was like, oh, no. You know, check the box, check the box, check the box. How are we showing up and doing that? A lot of that information, we used to work on doing all of our assessments at times other than the ISP meeting because we wanted to focus on our desired outcomes. What do you want from this year? How do we do that? This is something that we did all the time. Very rarely would I ever go in with like a checklist or a check mark because also I've had people sit there with a checklist and do this and it feels like, okay, would you say that it's total support, hand over hand, physical, what's the difference between hand over hand and physical direction? Can you define it? Like, I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. Just, you wanna watch us do laundry together for a little bit? You can just figure it out, right? There's ways to gather information that doesn't require the very, would you say this? Would you say that? And if you have to ask that question at some point, that's totally fine. But come on, let's focus on our facilitation. You can go to the next slide. Make your space. And again, I'm not gonna go into detail. I already talked about this a little bit. What helps communication flow? What format or space is most accessible? If I do a presentation like this, it's probably not helping communication. And I don't really know.
It's good for Zoom because they're up there.
And the back of my head always looks really wonky. I can never fix it right when I do my hair, right? What's accessible? Like, what helps that flow? Sometimes, there's times with certain teams, guess what? I'm gonna get rid of all the tables in the room. We're sitting in a circle. Because I know, friend, I know you're busy. I know you need to answer emails. I need your time. I'm sorry, I do not. Like, and I get that. I'm worst offender. It's like, you know, but come on. Everything's communication. Furniture placement, visuals, spoken language, body language. All communication. How are we showing up? What are we bringing there? A big thing, I love this, you can go to the next one, is agreeing on our terms. And I know this sounds so silly, but let's just figure out what we're doing here before I waste all your time, right? Hey, here we are. Our goal for today is to come up with 2 desired outcomes of what Jimmy, you don't even have to use the term desired outcomes, right? 2 things that Jimmy wants to accomplish this year. Things that we can support him in, how we can best support him to live the life he wants. Let's go. That's our goal for today. We can get there by being open and honest with each other. We are going to have differing opinions. The most effective way to do this, again, this is how we do it. Open, honest, vulnerable, truthful, direct. My old supervisor, Sarah, be direct and kind. And I think about that all the time. I don't want to be too fluffy. I want to be direct, but I want to be respectful and kind, right? I don't know that this is really serving us right now. Do you think we can get back to our original goal? How do we steer things? How do we keep that on our goal? It is okay to have differing opinions. People think that like disagreeing with someone is like, oh, I don't want to disagree with them. I don't want them to be mad with me. Please. It's okay to have differing opinions. It's not okay to be disrespectful. And again, what makes us wonderful is our differing opinions. Hey, I can really see coming from that perspective how you would think that. Can I share a different perspective with you and get your feel on that? Again, we're all going to the same place, right? We all have that common vision. We all have our goal and we are agreeing on the terms. I don't care if you get there by spinning around 5 times and then moving on and then I have to take 3 steps back and go to the right. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're going to get there. What we need is that communication to say, this is why I would like to try it this way, and for you to be like, okay, I don't know, I'm just gonna two of you, like, whatever. But right, like, okay, yeah, I can understand that. That's valid. I don't think it's gonna work, but I'm willing and open to trust you and try. Right? Okay, you can go to the next one. Please, 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 guys, this is the biggest thing that I tell anyone who works with me. Be open with how you operate. Let me start. Hi, my name is Sarah. I do not pick up on cues or hints, okay? When communicating with me, I need you to be direct. If you came in and hinted that you meant something, I will not understand that, okay? And if I'm thinking too much, oh, are they hinting something right now? Oh crap, what are they hinting? It's gonna throw me into a frenzy and we're all gonna be useless, all right? I need you to be direct. I promise not to get too offended. I tend to laugh and joke a lot when I'm nervous, so if you're coming in with something really serious and I'm like, okay, I'm taking it seriously, but that's my defense mechanism, okay? I prefer direct communication. If I don't understand, I really hate feeling stupid, like it's probably some trauma response, like we'll get into it later, we don't have time and I don't have the money to do that, because I would have to pay you all. But I become defensive, right? And I've had staff, hey Sarah, you're getting a little defensive. Am I explaining this correctly? No, you're not, I need you to define that word, please. I'm okay, call me out, I always appreciate it, like, hey, I feel like we're becoming defensive. Do we need to talk about A, B, and C more? Yes, we do, okay? I wanna be solution-based. This is the biggest thing you need to know about me. If I'm coming to you with something, I'm coming to you with it. This is what's happened, and I need to know how to move forward because I refuse to just talk about issues for 5 years. Hello, our entire system in the United States.
200, what if we do?
Yeah, 200 years. Can we not just talk about stuff for 200 years and be solution-based? I'm okay. Don't agree with me. Hey, we all want to get here and you want to do it this way. I feel like that's a bad idea, but I have a solution to this that could work. Please. My staff used to go to me all the time and I'd be like, I said, here's the deal, like if you're gonna jump the gun and not talk to your supervisor first and you're gonna come talk to me, that's fine. I would prefer you follow the chain of command. But if you're gonna come and talk to me and cry in my office while eating ice cream, this really happened to me. I need you to also bring with you an ice cream for me and a solution. Okay? Be prepared. I'm gonna ask you, well, what are we gonna do about it? You can go to the next slide. Person-centered is not reserved only for the people we support. Trauma-informed care practices are not reserved only for the people we support. We have so many resources, yeah, you go. We have so many resources at our disposal that we are like, oh, I'm gonna use this use it for everyone. Come on, there are tons of things. It may feel odd at first. I am a big person. I am going to be open and vulnerable. I found this quote. Is it Nietzsche or Nietzsche? Niche? See, if I can say it right. I'm like, I'm gonna put in a quote. And look very fancy. I thought it was okay. But one can also be undignified and flattering towards virtue. I am not saying you have to go in and act like a hot mess. Okay, that's my job. Thank you. But we don't have to feel like we have to be so professional that we can't be open and bring our authentic selves and vulnerable. It's important to be able to tell people in our team, in these relationships that we're building, this is how I'm showing up today. I need you to know, you don't have to get into the whole details. I need you to know that I had a little bit of a rough morning and I'm trying to get my head on straight. But I'm feeling a little defensive and aggravated, and if that presents itself, please know that that's the situation right now. If people, like just little warning labels would be nice, right? Like, don't ask them a question right now. There's actually, have you guys seen those things that people are big at offices where it's like, we use it for people with autism, like this is green. yes, come talk to me, I'm feeling okay. Yellow, maybe slow your roll a little bit, right? And then red, like, no, do not come near me. Like, I've seen places with offices with those out. You just can't keep them on red all the time, okay, guys? Some of those introverts are like, red always. You can go ahead to the next one. Again, when we're going into these conversations, possibility, we're always keeping that possibility at our focus. We can get caught up in 527 other things all the time, right? There are always problems to solve. We love being reactive and not proactive, right? That's a thing that exists in the DD field. But keep your possibility at the focus. Rein it in. If you're the facilitator, I love that point you just made, but I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna follow up on that later. Let's keep our focus. Keep our focus where we're going. Ownership. We are all taking ownership. We all have different parts to play, right? A provider's part is different than a county board's part, is different than DODD's part, it is different than family's part. We all have different parts to play. Our job is to be able to say, have ownership over that, okay? And this is one, this is like a whole presentation for another time, but I have a theory that due to trauma, families have given up a lot of ownership to the system, okay? And I'm saying this as a family who relies on the system for my daughter's well-being, okay? I feel like we've given a lot of ownership up. And I would love to dive deep into that and look at that. Because at the end of the day, that's my kid, I'm her parent, I wanted a baby, I had a baby, I wanted to be a mom, I am a mom. So my goals all got completed and there is ownership involved in that choice, right? So we need to own what's ours. One of the biggest things in life, if you say nothing else of me, I would say hopefully everyone knows that I'm gonna own up to my part. Yep, should have done it, didn't do it. Definitely did not happen. Supposed to be on a training yesterday at 10. I was talking to him. I didn't show up. It wasn't her fault. I just had the wrong date written down. But you know what? I'm gonna be like, oh my God, yeah, I totally messed up. I'm so sorry. Not every answer is yes. Hey, can your provider agency provide 24/7 2-on-1 staffing to this person? No. Have we tried remote supports? Right? Like, not every answer is yes, because we have very real and clear boundaries that we have to abide by. We are in a staffing crisis, and it sucks. There are certain things that I can't answer yes to. I can't do it, right? Commitment. We're gonna skip that for a second because that's my favorite. Yes, we don't focus on deficiencies. Again, when we're looking at what a person brings to the community, our little community of working together, our little meetings, we're not gonna focus on their lacks or inabilities. We're focusing on ability, right? That's Sarah. She can't stay organized to save her life. Ugh, don't bring her to the team. And then someone may say, well, you know, Sarah, she has good ideas every now and then. Might be worth, at least it's fun for a giggle, right? Entertainment purposes. Okay, see, I bring guests. Commitment. This is my biggest, like, mind-blowing thing of the end of 2022 and 23, and I keep reminding myself on this. My commitment, we just talked about ownership, right? My commitment is mine. I own my commitment to this person, to this team, to this field. It is mine. And y'all's commitment is really nice to have. We're not saying it doesn't matter. But that doesn't get to shake my commitment, okay? It's so easy, especially when we're trying to build community. We're trying to lift people up. We're trying to give people the best lives. We're trying to work as a team. That if so-and-so is off their pants off her game and not bringing anything to the table, well, I give up. But guess what? I can't do that because I have ownership of my commitment and my dedication and my level. Not saying some days it's not hard, but when you take ownership of that, my commitment is not contingent on the actions of others. Even if 50 doors are slammed in my face, my commitment is mine, and that's my motivation. And you don't get to touch it. I protect that. I have ownership of that. Sometimes I mutter this to myself, my commitment is not based on the action of others. Okay, my commitment is not based on the action of others. I've had a couple weeks like that where we're just the mantra. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Tyler Kleberger is a guy in Metamora, Ohio, who took a small church and started what he calls the Farmhouse Sabbath. And this is not even a church service, but he got his community together and in a barn, would have local music. They brought in people to do dinner. People come from all over to go to Farmhouse Sabbath. They do it once a month. He has revitalized his community. I think he actually just put a book out. But he's done amazing things with building this small little rural community, and it is so cool, and I love it. And you don't have to be any one faith. Like, you just come and have Sabbath with us, relax, hang out. The kids are playing. He took this big thing, but he had this quote just on his Facebook that I stole. But I'm giving him intellectual credit, so it's fine. But he said, our culture ought to think about conflict differently. Conflict is not failure. Conflict is an invitation. You'll never avoid it. Conflict plus imagination equals transformation. Trying to figure out where I was. I think I might actually be on time here. It's okay to have conflict. We are so afraid of conflict, of direct communication sometimes, that we automatically think, oh my gosh, this is a bad thing. I am allowed to come and tell you, I disagree with this wholeheartedly, and I feel really frustrated about it, and I'm trying to communicate that to you, and I need to talk it out. I need to sort it out with you. That's okay, because if we take conflict plus imagination, we get transformation. Chaos creates change, right? I've had a whole new theory too. I'm just owning my chaos. Because you know what? Chaos is creative, man. It creates change. And heck yeah, you should be so lucky to know this chaos, right? We need to be able to do that. And part of that is getting back to that commitment. Oh, I have a fun story. We'll go to this one in a second. So I've been on this kick where I'm reading a lot of Brene. I'm believing in being vulnerable. I'm believing that I'm not afraid of conflict. I can be honest with what I'm feeling. I was feeling so empowered. So I had this manager, this is when I was running an agency, so I'm CEO. She comes in and she's like, this job I told you that I wanted to take on, I can't do it. I'm not gonna do it. And in fact, I'm not even gonna try anymore. Wait for you to get a new person. I'm just gonna go back to what I was doing before, right? Okay. So she tells me this and then she peeks her head in my office. She's like, hi, are you mad at me? And I was like, I said, no, it's just the situation feels frustrating, so maybe it's fine. Well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, yes, okay. And so she leaves, and I'm typing, and I'm like, I'm mad. I am mad at her. I'm gonna go tell her I'm mad at her. So I find her, and I said, look, I didn't tell people, obviously. I said, look, here's the deal. You asked me if I was mad at you, and I said no, and I said, that's a lie. I'm actually really mad at you. And I think that you're smart enough to deal with that, right? And it's okay to tell you that because I don't want to lie to you because that seems really disrespectful to you as a person. So yes, I am very mad at this situation. But here's the good news. I probably won't be in a day. So I'm gonna process through what I'm feeling. You process through what you're feeling. I said, and let's get together and come up with some solutions to what is happening. Does that sound like a good idea? She's like, yeah, I've never had anyone say that to me before. And I was like, oh, yes, I was feeling so good. I'm like, look at me, being vulnerable. I did a whole TikTok about it. I'm like, no lie, I did a whole TikTok about it. She quit. She didn't even come back. Ever. I'm just like, yeah, okay. Well, we'll perfect it. It's fine. But I would rather be open and honest and vulnerable than have to sit there and be full of crap. Yes, I'm mad at you. But guess what? That's not the worst thing in the world. Actually, out of anyone, if I'm mad at you, it's really not going to be that rough because I try to be mean and it doesn't work, okay? That's it. This is our commitment, all right? We are entwined. We are working together. We are, is it a symbiotic organism? That's what I'm thinking for, okay. We rely on each other. The person supported, our community members, our team members. I'm not even separating into the different entities within those team members because we're a flipping team, guys. Get it together. Sorry. We're a team. We have to operate as a team because what we do as professionals, what we do as people in this field, what we do as family members, if we can't get our crap together between us, how does the community ever become a welcoming place for people with disabilities? And if nothing else, my biggest dream for my kid uses a wheelchair, she has a trach, she's like brittle diabetic, she has epilepsy, she has autism, she has Down syndrome, she's an overachiever. My biggest dream for her is that like she's 16 and some crazy kids, her friends, because like maybe she won't be put in a medically fragile classroom for the rest of her life, fingers crossed. That's like so much energy that I don't have the resources at the time. But, right, I like want some crazy 16-year-olds to come, scoop her out of her wheelchair, throw her in the back of a van, not like a kidnapping van, like in their mom's van, right? Don't even buckle, get the heck out of here and go do something reckless and stupid. I would love that. That's my number one dream, that my kid gets to go do stupid stuff with her high school friends. Because if we start on some of the stupid stuff I did, maybe my kids will be smarter. God only knows. But if we can't stop infighting and bickering and fighting against each other and working together and showing a united front with an amazing level of commitment and common vision for that person we support, then the community is never going to do that. And it's really up to us to hash out, figure it out, have those difficult conversations, be vulnerable, don't be afraid of conflict and creating and transforming things, right? Be respectful, value the other person as a human being, right? We'll just say that. But we have to be able to come to the point where we're willing to have harsh, real conversations. And I'm not saying you can't even get offended. There's been plenty of times where like, I feel really offended by this and I'm feeling defensive, so can you give me time to process? Please, I don't know if that's 10 minutes. I don't know if that's 10 days. Here's the deadline, I'll get back to you by, okay? But I'm gonna be very unfair if I speak right now. I know that much about me. I will not be gracious if I speak right now. We have to have that. Our commitment is number one to the person we serve. It is to our community, because guess what? My commitment to the people I serve is believing that they're valuable members of their community actually benefits communities. There are studies that support that. And to my team members, right? I'm committed to all of this and I am going to work together. So I will leave you with my favorite quote from Peter Block. The key to creating or transforming community then is to see the power in small but important elements of being with each other, right? It's those small moments. It's those little things that we take for granted where we accomplish the greatest change. That was like a little sub note. The shift we seek needs to be embodied in each invitation we make, each relationship we encounter, and each meeting we attend. For at the most operational and practical levels, after all the thinking about policy, strategy, mission, and milestones, it gets down to this. How are we going to be when we gather together? And so that is my question. How are we going to be? You don't get to decide that for other people. Sadly, I wish I did, right? You decide that for you. How are you showing up? What is your goal? Why are you here? And how are you going to be when you're together? So, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it so much. And if you have any questions, I have like 5 whole minutes for questions. Nice job. I know, who am I? I always go over.
Well, Kristen's extra efficient, so she probably kept you going the way she was running.
Move it. Does anyone have any questions,
comments, something that stuck out for you?
Anything you want to add, anything you want to share?
I'm prepared in case it was silent, which is normal.
Yeah.
She's
That's
not.
Pam's job, yeah.
She's not. So much pacing. Okay, I kind of just did too much pacing.
Does anybody have any?
Any questions here? Fantastic presentation, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
So one thing that you mentioned was around ownership and to kind of like bring it back to the timeline, which the reason why you do the timeline is then to see the symptoms that we all experience today and the symptoms of how people are navigating or using the system. Who can see where on the timeline where ownership would be a reason why families don't feel like they have ownership?
When a doctor told them to put their child in an
You
institution.
did it.
Ding, 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 ding.
And the system tells the families that you need us.
You did it, that's it. So and I think that like one of the symptoms that occurred was we created a system that was really crappy, right? And it failed. So the response to that failed system was to create a better system. And that's where our focus has remained, is always in creating better systems. So much so that we don't have time for the actual people that we're supporting. And so I would say on that DD system is the DD system itself needs to it's not the answer. Community is the answer, right? Like people being able to live their life is the answer. And some of those other symptoms, I think, lack of control, lack of choice. So what we see is we are slapping the person-centered label on these symptoms. I don't want to go do that. I don't want to do these things. I don't want to do this because those are the symptoms of a traumatized system. That's what's happening. So as a system, we need to be smart enough to recognize that and see where we can support people, because the things that are lost the most through trauma are hope, trust, joy, imagination, and aspiration. Those 5 things are the biggest things that leave us when we have trauma. So when we had conflict plus imagination, we don't have imagination because we lost because it's a symptom of trauma. So we have to figure out a way to heal that, to get that so that we can go into innovation. Yeah.
The challenge that I would put forth is that I don't know that it's our system that is broken. It's the influence, external influences that we have to deal with. A lot of the negativity that we've experienced is not because of, us who lives the life. It's because of like Medicaid. Yeah. It's because of, judicial systems that don't understand. It's all those outside forces that have us shackled to them, that have attacked those parasitic type of relationships that, cause us to react and respond in ways that we know aren't right. We know this is not healthy. And yet, because, we are tied to funding streams and because we are tied to people who make rules for us who really don't know us, that's the symptom. So as a system, I believe the system that we developed has been traumatized by outside influences. And when we talk about community, it's taking back some control. It's trying to affect change in those outside entities that is going to be part of our solution. And that's not things that we intrinsically do well.
Yeah,
I noticed that, yeah.
So I one time sat down and counted like between a certain year how many of the Ohio, the revised code where everything's kept or the administrative, whatever. I always not switch them. But like in 1 year, I was like, oh, this one was revised and this one, and there was like countless, right? And so I think about that, and my mind goes to some trauma-informed, but restorative justice, right? Why are we so quick to say this happened, let's write a rule about it, and now every single person's gotta follow that rule, right? So that is definitely, when we talk about, you know, and I've said this a million times, like, I'll take, and I'm not, there's very lovely people in compliance, I'm not saying that, but I'll take any citation if you come in and understand that, like, the people who I'm supporting are happy, this box wasn't checked, yeah, go ahead, I'll take it. Because I know at the end of the day, I'm doing that job, right? But it's how do we then get those systems, like, yes, you have a job to do, you are bound by these rules, your funding relies on it. But where do we get to removal of the power and control to, hey, I've really noticed this and I would love to offer you solutions and ways that we can address this. And maybe it's like a technical support, not a citation, right? But that's a mind shift of people who make bigger decisions than I do, right? But here's the thing, the powers that be kind of have to follow our lead. If we can get to, and this is why I say like the small change, that's where it happens, right? I'm a firm believer that families built this system and families can burn it to the ground. Okay, like, and I don't mean that as a threat to any system. I'm just saying like that's historically accurate. We may do, right? So I have no issue saying, okay, I am one family member and this is the change I'm gonna act and I'm gonna encourage other people to also do this, right? Let's get out there, let's spread it. But I think that that's where the change is, because I think the more that on our local levels, we're seeing productive results, we're seeing those results, we're seeing the work that's put in, then that's how it starts to spread. And it is very easy to get frustrated by the whole like general system, you know, like it's very easy to get frustrated. But I think that, and then Peter Blatt talks about that a lot in his book, because it is all about building that community. So we're working on building our local relationships, our local communities, this and that. So you can go to Pam and be like, I got these citations, or I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get cited on this, and maybe Pam's like, well, maybe there's something that we can figure out together, you know, like, not like, well, I told you to fix that 5 months ago, you didn't fix it, seems like your own darn fault, right? There are ways that we can do that to more of that support and teamwork, because here's the deal, and this is where we're at right now. If providers fail, county boards fail. We're kind of really dependent on each other. Especially what, it's 2024, no county board is allowed to provide any type of direct service whatsoever. We need each other. We need to figure it out. We gotta be able to have the tough conversations, we've gotta be able to figure it out. And if we can't, the people who were built to support, those are the people that suffer. Like, I mean, I like having jobs, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, I look at the system, and if we can't work this business out, it's my kid who suffers, and that is not okay to me. So I think that we have to recognize things for what it is, know what change we're working towards, but then again, the focus has got to be like, how do we get our relationships to be that, dang, do you see Fairfield County and their relationship with their providers? Holy crap, how do we mimic that? And then next you know, Pam's up giving presentations at OACD conferences and then like national conferences because Fairfield County just changed the freaking world. So like that's where our focus has always got to be. You do it? Okay. I'll submit a proposal for the spring. I'm submitting one for. Ooh, I'll be in there.
Alrighty, so I know that the retention question and answers is gonna started. So I wanted to just make sure everyone had a chance to get onto that. A couple things before we end, just a reminder, next month, February 22nd, we have a team from the Starfire Council that will be presenting on social patterns of disability. And a reminder, RFPs are now online. They're gonna be, or they are presently posted on the Fairfield County Board of DD website. So if you're looking for someone to serve, please get on there. Very easy to read. It's all listed. Respond to the RFPs that you're interested in. If it's not on there, then it's no longer active. If you haven't already put your name and email in the chat, please do so I can get you your certificate. Ann Mikan has added the website in the chat so you can get on there and copy it and get on and take a look. We don't have any more questions. Pam, Thank you. Sarah, thank you for coming all the way down from Toledo.
Yes, thank
We
you.
appreciate everything that you shared with us today. I had a lot of comments from providers saying wonderful message, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day and we'll see you guys next month.
I'm gonna sneak out there real quick and answer some emails while you guys talk about